All right, it's good to see everyone this morning. Everybody's doing okay, I know pollen still causing stuffy nose, runny nose, all the fun things that come right along with this time of year. Hope everybody getting through that. So, take a look here, good, I think. Good to see everyone this morning. All right. Gonna open up like we do each week. We'll open up with our prayer request this morning. So this point in time, right, that's pretty. Pray for my dad. He's not feeling well here lately. Just various different things. Can't put his finger on any of it. Just pray for him. He'll get feeling better. Uh, be back to his old self again. So, anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, yes, that's back in that pain. It just takes everything we do. Anyone else?
I can't remember my ministry, and I get the honor of preaching today. Please pray for that.
All right.
Yeah.
Pressure's on. Anyone else? Yeah. Can't wrap my head stuff those guys do talk about meeting about peace talk in different countries, different situations. You know, sometimes I get nervous about little meetings I have here and there. I can't imagine the amount of pressure that the men, ladies are dealing with. So many things at stake, definitely. here every week, Lord, I pray you touch each situation that was mentioned here this morning. I pray, Lord, you just work in each and every one, each and every physical ailment, each and every doctor that was mentioned, each and every doctor visit, each and every surgery, each and every sickness, each and every difficulty, each and every mental toughness, physical difficulty that the ones that were mentioned here this morning, Lord, I pray you just enter into their lives, Lord. Let them feel a relief. Let them feel a relief, Lord, like only you can provide, Lord. One that and let them realize, Lord, that you work in their life. Lord, forgive us where we fall short, where we fail. Keep this name. Amen. All right. We've been kind of all over and been teaching kind of what good looks like in an all series of lessons and just things that I think are important for us that we deal with day in and day out and in today's life and you know, the fundamental problems that we deal with in life. And Sawyer and I were having this conversation this week. He said, Dad, things are just so different. I said, they are, son. He said, they're just so different now than when you were a teenager. I said, they are, son, but they're not. I said, you have a lot more things. There's a lot more things that are available to you. There's a lot more issues and different things that you deal with. But fundamentally, the devil is still the same today as he was then. And the
Amen.
problems are still the same that you deal with. They may look a little different. They may take a little different turn. They may have a different color. And they may deal with a different thing. But fundamentally, the things that you deal with are still the same things that we deal with and are dealt with as teenagers. It just looks and packaged a little different. The devil is still working to separate you from God. The devil is still working to separate you from what it is that he'd have for you to do. And it's no different at whatever stage of life you're in, whether you're like these little guys here and you're still learning how to tie your shoes and dress yourself. And some of us still haven't mastered that at this age, right? But whatever it is that you're working on in life, or whatever stage that you're in life, the devil is still working to do those two things. To one, to separate you from God, to separate you from him, and the other is to separate you from the goal and what God has for you in his life. And some of you could say those are the same things, and they may very well be. But regardless, the devil is working each day in and day out to push you apart in every facet, every part of your life. I had a couple things going this week, and they were busy things and things that meant a lot to me, and I tried to put a lot into it. And it seemed like that the day that I had to do those things, that morning, everything just fell apart. And you know how does that ever happen to anybody else? When you got something important going on someday, everything goes smooth for all y'all those days. Those mornings when you get up, it seems like your hair just fixes right, and but it seems like when you find the perfect outfit and shoes match like they should, and you got the right purse to go. Man, does that ever happen? That doesn't happen to me ever. It never happens to me. It seems like the day that I have the most important things to do, or the day that everything around it falls apart. Does it ever happen to anybody else? Well, I was having one of those days this week, and I got up that morning, and everything I touched that morning, everything, everything that you went about to do took twice as long. Everything had millions of different pieces and parts. And I guess Leona could see it, and she just said to me a little bit as I was getting ready to go out the door, and I guess she said, just breathe, just wait, just breathe, just ignore all of these things. All these little silly things, and she's right. There were things that amounted to nothing, and just focus on what you got to do, and this stuff will be here later. And just go deal with what you got to do. And some of us need that. Some of us need that in life. We just need to focus on the things ahead. Some of us need to tell us, somebody reminding us, hey, sometimes you're in the tough thing, but keep working through it. So, hey, Kevin, how you doing? You're a little bit late. And she looked at me like I was going to bust her. You just need that. You need that person. You need that thing. You need that pat on the shoulder, that pat on the back. I tell you a funny story. Kendall walked in at a good time. She had a track meet this week. And she's a sixth grader, and she competes in the middle school. And she's always the youngest one competing. And the place that we were at, she does the high jump. The place that we were at just so happened to be the meet that we're competing at. The girls that she was competing against were number 1 and number 2 in the state. Now, as a grown up, and I understand, that no way she should be there. I understand that. I know that she's not going to be. But she, as a child, she doesn't understand it. And she thinks that she should be everybody that she goes up with. And so she got up there, she did really well. She placed third. Guess who got like this? The top 2 in the state. And when she placed third, and they only beat her by 1 jump, and when she placed third, she got in, her body language was terrible, and she come down crying. And me, as a dad, fix your body language. Make us, look right. Just want you to do the right thing. Then her coach, he gets her over there. And he says, hey, listen. He says, and you just don't have that these are the best girls in the state. And you're right there. He was there to say the kind of things. He was there to lift her up. He was there to make her feel good. And he said, guess what? They're 3 years older than me. Won't see me. He was there to be comforted. We need those things that help us in the tough times in our lives. How many of us can think back to people in our lives who have helped us through the tough times in their life. Just like David was saying here in our prayer request this morning, of this church, this is what we're for. That's our fundamental purpose here. One of our fundamental purposes here is to lift up our church family, to reach out, to help them when they're in need. The title of my lesson today is Leading Through the Hard Season. Leading through the hard season. The theme is faith under pressure. Faith under pressure. I know none of you are under any pressure in life. No one have ever dealt with that, ever dealt with any pressures in your life. I know it must be unique to me. That's what my teenage son thinks. Okay, you just don't understand. You don't understand the pressure that I'm going through. I used you as an example this week. And the things that you went through in this life, and the things that you've dealt with, and the things that you have testified about. And you were such a good and a positive example that I could use in the life for my children. And thank you for being that. I know you probably wish you didn't have to go through some of the things you went through, but he has dealt with pressures in life. Still dealing with them today. Still dealing with them today. Everyone in here is dealing with some sort of pressure in life. If you have your Bible, turn to James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And if you want to turn to 2 places, Isaiah 41. James chapter 1 and Isaiah 41. I'll give you a minute to do that. Give you a couple of scriptures here that I hope can help you when pressure comes in your life. Because unfortunately, for those of us in this class, or most of us in this class, we don't have the luxury. Most of us are dads and moms, and grandfathers, grandmothers, and aunts and uncles, and have important roles in the lives of those people who depend on us. And unfortunately, we can't quit. We can't just quit. We can't retire from being who we are. We can't retire from the service of God. We can't just quit in life. In James chapter 1, verse 2 and 3, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Wait a minute now. Joy. How many of you feel joy when you fall into a tough time? I don't. I don't. I don't. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. Well, I'm sure many of you have heard this before. I know I've taught it up here before. People say, well, I just pray the Lord to give me patience. Wait a minute now. When you pray for patience, it's the trying of your faith, the difficult time that gives you patience. You've heard me say this before, though. I've always said when you get older, you have more patience. When you get older. That is not true. That is a lie. Don't ever let anyone tell you that. My patience are less. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. Man, that's a lot, isn't it? That's a lot. Because most of us, the human nature, the Adam sin nature that we have in us, when we run against diverse temptations. When we run against the trying of our faith, man, we just want to fold, don't we? We want to blame this or that and the other. We want to point fingers. We just want to quit. We want to wallow in self-pity. We want to be depressed. We want to stay there. We want to live there. And listen, all of those things are real things. This Adam sin nature, this flesh, it isn't naturally good. You got to work toward it. I need these scriptures to tell me what I need to do. I don't know about you. Maybe you wake up ready to go. You don't need any coffee. You wake up just 2 feet on the floor, hit the floor running, wide open, smiling, laughing, singing. Is that everybody in here this morning? Woke up this morning, let the dogs out. And the dog was on the other side of the bed, and it takes her about an hour and a half to wake up, I think. It's kind of like a diesel engine. It takes a long time to warm up. She was over there, and I just looked at some of the faces she was making. She was waking up. I was like, "Have you been paid? Hey, what? I hope I look this handsome when I wake up." I mean, But the reality of it is, we need this scripture. We need these things to help us through this. Because the trials in your life reveal what you trust. Pressure exposes the foundations in your life. I see that in my children as they're growing and they're being exposed to different things. And I see pressure being applied to them in their life. And I see, and it's my job as their dad, as their parent, to point them back to the foundation in their life. Pressure exposes the foundation. Growth grows under strength. We talk about this all the time. You're not going to have any muscles in life. You're not going to have any physical muscles or spiritual muscles if you don't work. If you don't work them out, if you don't move them, if you don't use them, if you don't use the muscles in your life, whether they're spiritual or physical, then you will not grow. Children watch how adults handle hardships. Children watches how adults handle hardship. They're patterning their lives after you. They're patterning what they see. They take the exposures and experience. How do I know this? Because I was once a child. And some of the biggest impressions on me in my life are the hardships that I've seen the adults ahead of me go through in their life. You all have seen it. You all have experienced it. The loss of loved ones. I remember when my father lost his father and his mother, and watching him go through that and how he handled it and what he did. I don't know. God, I've never dealt with that type of loss in my life, and I know many of you have. And I don't physically know how to get through something. But I've seen it. I've seen examples. I've seen children watch how adults handle hardships. As a parent, as a grandparent, when you're going through a difficult time in your life, maybe it's a lost job, maybe it's a major change in your life. Those children are watching to see how you handle that, how you deal with that, and what you deal with. What you do. Instead of panic, instead of going off the rails, instead of going off the deep end, instead of just doing all those things, how about just take a minute? Just take a minute. Isaiah 41, if you turn to it. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Fear not, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God, and I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help. I will help. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help. Instead of panic, instead of going crazy and going off the deep end. We need these verses in our life. And some of us will still read these verses and say, but you just don't understand. You just don't understand what I'm dealing with. You just don't understand what I'm going through. You just don't understand. It's like the conversation that Sawyer and I had. I may not, but I have a God that says, fear not. Fear not. I read this story this week. I didn't know if I was going to share it to you, but I'll share it to you. And I don't know if it's a fiction, I don't know if it's a true story, but it's a good story. It's back during the Civil War. A mother had two sons fighting in the war. And the mother learned that she was on her deathbed. She was about to die. And her dying wish is what she wanted to pray over her two sons before she died. Well, they were out in war, and it's not like it is today. You couldn't just send an email. You couldn't just make that request. So the father set out to do his best. The dad set out to do his best to try to make that happen for his dying wife. So he set out, he wrote letters, and he did all the things that he could do, and he just wasn't getting any traction. He said, well, the only other thing I know to do is just go to the White House and see the president. Back in that time, there was actually an open door policy at the White House. You could actually go and try to see the president. So he went to the White House. It took him 2 days to walk there, trying to honor his dying wife's wish. So he gets there, and he's met by two guards there in front, or at the door of the White House. And he says, he goes through the story. He says, I've exhausted every option that I could. I went through everything that I could. And he said, I just know that Abraham Lincoln is the only man that can make this happen. Abraham Lincoln is the only man that can grant this wish and find my sons and get me in. They said, we understand. We understand. Listen, you can't see the president right now. He's in a war meeting with the generals as we speak. Maps are strode out everywhere. Hey, we can't let you in. But we can point you to a congressman or a senator. Maybe we can help you find one of those, but we just can't let you in right now. The man says, I really have to get in to see that the only person that can make this right, that can fix this for me, is Abraham Lincoln. Is there anything you can do? They said, so I'm sorry, we can't. The man was defeated. He went down and sat down on an old park bench. And he sat there and he just began to cry. And while he's sitting there, he's noticing a little boy running past him, about 12, 14 years old, doing things that little boys do, chasing squirrels, things like that. And he was just so brokenhearted. He just knew that his wife was going to die. He didn't even know at this point his sons were living. It was just completely at the bottom of the barrel in his life. Finally, when the little boy stopped, he said, sir, is there something I can help you with? He said, no, son, you just go about playing. My problem is you wouldn't understand. Well, the little boy scampered off. It wasn't long, he come back again. He said, sir, is there anything I can help you with? He said, son, all right. And he explained to me, went through the whole story. And the little boy sat and listened. And he said, so you're telling me that the only person that can help you with this is Abraham Lincoln? He said, I've tried every other way, sir. He said, I just don't know another way. The little boy took his hand. He said, come. So they got up. They went to the White House, and they approached the two doors where the two men were standing guarding the door before. And the man kind of slowed up because he thought, well, we're going to get stopped right here. And he said, that little boy, he just busted right in the doors and kept walking. The guards didn't say a word. He said, he's taking my hand, he dragged me through another set of doors and down a passageway. Then we passed multiple guards. Nobody ever said a word. We walked into the room of the meeting where the generals and the maps and everything was strode out. And the little boy said, Daddy, this man needs to see. You see, I don't know how to fix all the problems of the people in my life, but I know a man who can. I know a man who can. And the problems that we face today are no different than the problems that this man faced in the 1800s. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God, and I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. And didn't say he may help thee, might help thee. He'll think about it. He said, I will help thee. Pressure exposes foundation. Faith grows under strain, and children watch how we handle hardships. But the stability in our life, the stability that we can hope for, y'all know what I'm talking about. That peace, that calm, that stability comes from God's promise. You know, our feelings fluctuate in life. How we feel fluctuates. The truth of that is, I mean, how many of you guys woke up every day and felt amazing every day of the world this week? No, you didn't. Some days you felt bad. After church today, Jeff's going to go eat him a big bowl of something at lunch, and he's going to eat too much, and he's going to feel bad. Then what you're going to have to do, Jeff, you're going to take a nap, right? Feelings fluctuate, but truth remains. God strengthens us in the weary parts of our life. And when the fear shrinks, it's when our faith grows. I know that at 46, 47 years old. Didn't know that at 16, 18, 25 years old. I didn't know that. Why do I know it more now? Because I've experienced it. I've dealt with it. I've seen it. I've lived it. I've seen you deal with it. I've seen you experience it. You guys heard me talk a little bit about Martin Luther, and who he was and what he done for Christianity. But one of the things I read about Martin Luther was he experienced deep anxiety in his life, doubt, emotional struggle about his salvation, things that he dealt with in his life. One of the things I read about him is that he ultimately anchored himself in the scripture in Romans 1:17. Romans 1:17. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Ultimately, he anchored himself in his faith. He anchored himself in his faith. I would hate to go through this life. I just can't wrap my head around. I can't understand a whole generation of people, and a whole group of and segment of people who don't have a foundation like we have in Christianity. Don't have anything to turn to, go to when the difficult things, when the temptation, when the struggles, when the trials in their life. We don't have those things. It's that faith that provides our foundation. You know, feelings are real. Feelings are real in our life. The feeling of love we have is real. The feeling of stress we have is real. The feeling of depression we have is real. The feeling of happiness is real. But listen, they're not always reliable. Feelings aren't always reliable. Truth in God's word, it's always steady, even when our emotions, they're not. When we're on our highest high or lowest low, God's word is still the same. God's word is still there. It's truth. It's steady. It's stable. Have you ever felt really strongly about something? Just knew really something really strongly you felt about something, and it turned out later not to be true. Sure, we have. We live in this world. That's this world that's dominated by sin, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to my dad. It's going to happen to my mom. It happened to my grandfather, my grandma. It's going to happen to all of us. But God strengthens us when we're weary. Everybody in here knows who Mother Teresa is and what she done in her life, and she had committed her life to a life of servitude. And some would say the ultimate servant. And what she did, she served the poorest of the poor for decades and under some extreme conditions, some really bad conditions. But if you read some of her personal writings, some of the things that she wrote, she details and talks about how she felt spiritually exhausted, and even at times she felt like she was distant from God. Even one of the world's known to be greatest servants felt distant, felt spiritually exhausted. If you've experienced that in your life, and I know you have, we're going to. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. But this Bible, these scriptures, that's where our stability is. Feelings are real, but they're not always reliable. God's strength often shows up when we're not feeling strong. But when we keep going, despite the weak. I've told this story many times before. It's pretty good. I was young, just a young driver, and maybe just got her license. And like most of you women, I think she thinks her gas light is reversed. Like the more gas she has, the closer to E it gets. So I don't know how you women think, but she was about out of gas. She was driving. She called her mom and she says, "Mom, I'm about out of gas. What do I do? There's no gas station for X amount of miles. What do I do?" Expecting some great form of wisdom, some bolt of lightning, some save the day moment, some words coming from her mom that would impart the greatest wisdom that she ever heard. You know what her mom told her? Just keep driving. I didn't put gas in my car. Well, you should put gas in your car before. But there are times in life, there are times when we're going through spiritual things, there are times we're going through difficulty, there are times we're going through weakness, that we don't see a gas station around, we don't know where the next one is. And this was before they had the days of, you push the button, and driving. I got in her car the other day. I started it up, got to the end of the road, little screen tells me, "Hey, you're about out of gas. Would you like for me to tell you where the next gas station is?" Of course, that's like the seatbelt prompt in her car. Every time I get in it, it says that. I think the next prompt should have said, "Or would you just like to ignore me like your wife does?" But it didn't say that. I was looking for that screen. I scrolled a little bit. It didn't say that. There are times in life when we don't feel like we can find the next gas station. There are times in life when everything we see is bleak, when everything that we around us, it feels like the walls are closing in. Those times in life when we do that, God's strength will show up. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29, he gives strength to the weary. I want to challenge you. We don't have time to do it in here. But as you're thinking about this week, for me, it always helps write things down. As you're thinking about this week, when you say, "Well, this week, I'm going to forget what you said by the time we leave today." Maybe. All right, I don't know. But as you think about this week, write down a time where you've been tired, but you kept going. And then on the other side of the page, or right under, have to do it. What helped you keep going? I remember a time when I was, Levon and I were living in Atlanta. So it was a little thing, or was it born? And we're going through a difficult time there at work. We're making some changes, just putting in crazy amount of hours. And I would get up when it was dark and come home when it was dark, and didn't get to see them very much. And I was getting up that morning, and Sawyer was still had a bottle at that time. I don't know, just toddling around, maybe two, close to two, somewhere there. I don't know, little fella. And I got up early, and usually I try not to wake anybody up when I got up. And I got up early, and I was getting ready to go in. It was probably around 4 in the morning, somewhere there. And I was standing at the front door of our apartment that we were living in at the time. I was standing at the door, and I was getting ready to go out the door, and usually the last thing I did was I put my boots on as I went out the door. And I thought I was the only one up. I thought I was the only one at the door, and I was so tired. I was physically so tired. It was a shutdown, and if you ever work anything like that, it's wide open. It's long hours. I was so physically tired, and I just wanted to not go. I just wanted to not go. It just was. I was at the emotional, physical bottom of what I felt like I could give. And I got to the door, and I usually get to the door, and I unlock the door, and then I turn around and grab my boots and just slip them on and go out the door. And I got to the door, and I unlocked the door, and I turned around, and there was Sawyer in his Superman pajamas, and he had a little bottle. His bottle was under his arm, and he had put his legs in my boots, and they come all the way up to his leg. He was just standing there, doing that, like he was trying to go with, you know. He just wanted to be with Dad. He got up early, and I needed that. I needed that. I needed that motivation. I needed that reason. I needed that push. This is like, this is like I was talking to Sawyer this week. We were talking about people that I don't allow him to be around in life because of the influence. He said, Dad, but you just don't know. You just don't know this. You just don't know that. I said, I'll tell you what I do. So, what I see in this person that you're talking about, what I see, I don't want one of the most precious things that to me in this world be influenced by that. I don't want one of the things I love the most in this world. One of the things I cherish, one of the things I held when you took your first breath in this life, I don't want you around that stuff. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like this person was a drug dealer or anything like that. It just, they don't have a good work ethic. They don't have all the things that a parent doesn't want their child hanging around, all the things. And I explained to him, I said, these are the reasons why. Because it's precious to me. We all need that motivation in life. Why is that motivating me? Because I want him to be successful. He hasn't experienced that in his life. He hasn't experienced seeing someone grow up and seeing the patterns. And I gave him the story of some boys that I knew that I grew up with that, oh man, they were funny. They were fun to be with. They were fun to be around. But they would sneak around class and smoke dope in the classroom. And now they keep stringing two sentences together. He hasn't seen those things, but I have. You have. And I don't want him to deal with those things in his life. David faced a giant warrior that terrified an entire army. One man terrified an entire army. We often face Goliaths in our life. The others saw the danger. The others saw the impossibility. The others saw the difficulty. The others saw that there was no way around. But David didn't see that. He just saw God's power. His confidence in God made his giant seem smaller. And we talked about it. We talked about it. He didn't just ease up to that giant. He ran at that giant. He ran at his problems in life. Was it because David thought he had superiority over him? Was it because David had trust in his sling? Was it because David had all of these? David had youth? What did he think? Were those the reasons that he faced the giant in life? Because they were. He just knew that he had a God inside. He knew there was one man that gave him the power. His confidence came from God, and it made his giants seem smaller. Now, fear doesn't always disappear. Depression doesn't always disappear. Lack of confidence doesn't always disappear. It doesn't disappear. At times it's still there. But what it does, it becomes manageable when our faith increases. It becomes manageable. It makes the unbearable bearable. Have you faced any giants today? Any test, any pressure? Are you going to face any in the future? And how can your faith strengthen your perspective? In summary, feelings change, truth doesn't. Our energy fades, but God renews it. And as our fear grows, our faith grows bigger. You know, grandparents, and there's one or two in the crowd here. Grandparents often become anchors in the storm. For the same reason I gave about Sawyer and the experiences in life and the people that he hangs around, for the same reason grandparents can be the calm in the storm, the voice of reason. There are times your children, your grandchildren are coming to you and they're going to be all in a tizzy about this, that, and the other. And you can look back and say, yeah, we've been through that. And we know it's going to come out okay on the other side. Why? Because your faith has been strengthened. You've been through those storms. You've lifted the heavy things already in life. You've seen the difficulty. You've walked through it. You've lived through it. You've dealt with it. Each and every point, grandparents often become anchors in the storm, and your calm reassures the younger generations. You say, Brian, I'm old. I'm retired. What can I do? Well, there you go. The calmness that you can exhibit will reassure the next generation. I still have both my parents. I know some of you don't. I can't imagine. Sometimes I just need to hear from my dad about nothing. It's not like we call and have any. Oftentimes when we talk, it's just about nothing. Work, truck, logging, stuff like that. But we need that reassurance. I need that calmness that he provides. Children borrow courage from calm adults. Children borrow courage from calm adults. And then your perseverance builds your legacy. Quitting teaches weakness. Endurance teaches strength. And God honors those of us who remain faithful. Hard seasons don't last forever. Hard seasons don't last forever in life. But the lessons that they teach you, the lessons they teach you, do. Hard seasons don't last forever. The lessons they do. All right, that's all I have for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's message, today's lesson. As our little ones come out, as they sing their song, as they do whatever it is they're going to do, let's make sure we're paying attention. We're making sure we're giving them our attention. And I love you. God bless.